Welcome to another video in my series, Brief Babbles. These super short videos are aimed at touching on smaller and more creative ideas or vehicles from history. Whether they are so obscure that there is not much known about them, or they did not make much of an impact in the grand scheme of things, every wacky and out there design deserves at least a little bit of recognition. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoy, and leave a comment about ideas for future videos. Getting into today's topic, most people know the famous Ju-87s of Nazi Germany, and how they were used in conventional dive bombing roles. Fewer people know of the alternate way of ground attack. Big gun make tank go boom. By the mid-1930s, the German military, as well as its counterparts in other countries, had come to see the main role of ground attack aircraft as the interdiction of logistics and material, a task in which targets were often poorly protected and less likely to have a strong, well-coordinated defense. For high-value, well-protected tactical targets, the dive bomber was becoming the conventional solution. It was anticipated that the main source of damage to such an aircraft would be small arms fire from the ground, meaning that the plane had to be well armored around its cockpit and engines. Another non-operational requirement severely hampered the designs. The RLM, Reich Air Ministry, insisted that the new design be powered by engines that were not being used in existing aircraft, so that the type would not interfere with the production of established types deemed essential to the war effort. Only 4 companies were asked to submit tenders. 3 submissions followed, and only 2 of these were considered worthy of consideration. One derived from an existing Focke-Wulf reconnaissance type, the Focke-Wulf 189, and the other was Heinkel's all-new HS-129. The HS-129 was designed around a single large bathtub of steel sheeting that made up the entire nose area of the plane, completely enclosing the pilot up to head level. Even the canopy was steel, with only tiny windows on the side to see out of and 2 angled blocks of glass for the windscreen. There was so little room in the cockpit that the instrument panel ended up under the nose below the windscreen, where it was almost invisible. Some of the engine instruments were moved outside onto the engine nacelles, inboard facing surfaces, and the gun sight was mounted outside on the nose. The Reich Air Ministry nevertheless felt they should continue with the concept. The only real deciding factor between the 2 designs was that the Heinkel was smaller and cheaper. The Focke-Wulf was put on low priority as a backup, and testing continued with the HS-129A0. By late 1942, reports were coming in about the ineffectiveness of the Mark 101 main gun against newer versions of the Soviet T-34 tanks. One obvious solution would be to use the larger 3.7 cm BK-37, recently adapted from the ground-based 3.7 cm Flak 18. These guns had already been converted into underwing-mounted pods for the Junkers Ju-87G, and found to be an effective weapon, despite the fact that only 12 shells per pod could be accommodated. When mounted on the HS-129, the empty area behind the cockpit could be used for ammunition storage, greatly increasing the supply compared to the Ju. The B-2R3 package introduced the BK 3.7 cm automatic cannon, but relatively few aircraft were converted in favor of the B-3, mounting the BK 7.5. The gun and its recoil mechanism occupied a substantial gun pod under the fuselage, and a circular port at the rear of the pod allowed rearwards ejection of spent cartridges immediately after firing. While this new variant of the HS-129B3 was theoretically capable of destroying any tank in the world, the added weight worsened the aircraft's general performance, and it was inferior to previous variants in that regard. The Bordkanone 7.5 was the heaviest and most powerful forward-firing weapon fitted to a production military aircraft during World War II. The only other ground attack aircraft to be factory-equipped with a similar caliber gun were the 1,420 examples of the North American B-25G and B-25H Mitchell, which mounted either a 75mm M4 cannon or lightweight T-13E1 or M5 versions of the same gun, both of which required a crew member to manually reload after each shot. From June 1944, only 25 examples of the HS-129B3 arrived at frontline units before the production line was shut down in September. A small number were reportedly also created by converting B-2 aircraft. In the field, the B-3 proved effective, but its small numbers had little effect on the war effort. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy, think about checking out some of my other content above. Or don't, if you're lame. Either way, I hope to see you in the next one.